Hello, YouTube friends and family. Um, I've noticed a few of you commenting about the horrors that you've gone through over and above the adoption itself, which is a horror, um, and the terrible things that have happened to you and to your adoptive homes, the negligence that you've undergone by your adoptive families. But I think this has kind of triggered a thought in me in that, there was a certain contract put together that these people were responsible for certain things, and we were signed over to the government, so technically they are our guardians. And the word negligence is coming to mind in a big way because, as it is defined, failure to use reasonable care resulting in damage or injury to another seems to be massive, a massive case of negligence. Because if you're dropping a baby in a home, and judging by the applications that I got to see in 74, I mean, I imagine those applications are maybe a little bit more in depth now for adoption, but I don't really know how much. Um, the adoption agencies aren't sharing their information with me. Although I haven't asked, maybe they will. Maybe that's some FOIP stuff. If I can overcome some ADD problems to get that sort of paperwork together. But how many of you adoptees, whether you were in a home that you never had problems or a home you had nightmares in problems, like a lot of us, did the adoption agencies ever do follow-ups, check-ins? Um, is there a policy as to when these check-ins are supposed to take place? Every 5 years, after the first year, after a couple weeks? I don't know. Um, and maybe it's time I start contacting some of these adoption agencies. I can't expect a warm reception. I don't expect a warm reception from these people because I think they know. I think they know that what they're doing isn't right. I mean, how many times could you go through that scenario and not pick up on it that you're doing something wrong? But I mean, it just leads me to wonder, what's the protocol for these agencies? Get the baby. We know that's the priority. Get that baby, right? That's their job. Get the baby. And then I don't know about the placing ones, and I don't even know if there's any sort of follow-up at all. And maybe someone can enlighten me as to their own research and knowledge in that department. Because hopefully you folks understand that although I've delved deep within myself and I've tried to really look at the whole thing objectively and from different perspectives and from all angles of the triad, from the societal factors. What do you do about this problem? Something needs to be done for sure. Um, but at the same time, I mean, let's not pretend that it isn't what's wanted. The government wants to place the babies. They want to be in charge of who gets to be parents. They want people in certain homes for their own reasons, whether they be benevolent or malevolent, but they are not sharing those reasons for you, and the psychological implications are also kept out of the picture as well, because we know there is psychological implications. Um, the more I try to get treatment for what I would call complex post-traumatic stress disorder, I think every adoptee is probably suffering from that. Well, maybe not everyone, but the generalized adoptee, the one where the social worker came, the young mother, whether or not the mother was sent off to live with relatives in another city and it was covered up. I mean, that's kind of I think that's kind of the general adoption that we've experienced, that I've experienced. But don't get me wrong. I'm sure there's situations where adoption's working like the fairy tale, where it's meant to be, where um, maybe the parents died or they're horribly abusive or whatever, and this fairy tale Prince Charming like parents come along and adopt that child and raise it lovingly, and they go on to be fulfilled, happy spiritually, and all these things. And I mean, I don't know what that path looks like. I have no idea. To me, that's just a fairy tale that maybe I lived when I was a little kid, and you know we've had to get over for the most part, the majority of it. So please understand that when I am talking, I am generalizing a great deal. I'm generalizing a lot from my perspective and from the perspective of other situations I've seen. And again, some of the adopted people I know in real life don't necessarily agree with me. Look at things the other way. Haven't considered that there's anything wrong with what's been going on in their life. So for those people, I mean, by all means, continue on doing what you're doing, and if you want to have a positive spin on adoption, fantastic. But as a group of people, I think it's very important that we are respectful, right? So when I say that, if we were doing a study of 100 people drinking a certain product A, and say 40% of those people all really enjoyed it and had no bad side effects from it, and had a great experience trying product A. But 60%, or even 10%, it doesn't really matter. Like a percentage of those people died, had horrible side effects, bleeding out the eyes, anus, blah, 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 whatever. I think you'd want to know about that. And even today with the pharmaceutical companies, I mean, one of the shoddiest industries in the world, they're in their advertising, they're putting on the products, listen, may cause da 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 da. Even cigarettes have warnings now. Alcohol, is starting to maybe kind of warn people, but I mean, not enough to the actual dangers. But does anyone ever talk about the negative consequences of adoption? Because I've seen enough in real life, real time, people I know that have gone homeless, have turned to prostitution, ended up in jail, killed themselves, addiction cases through the roof. And these weren't necessarily, these were people raised in accountants' homes, multimillionaires' homes, etc., etc. So at the end of the day, I mean, if you've got your physical needs taken care of, I mean, that's great. Fantastic, good. I personally, I was put in a home that struggled for money. And again, like I said, in hindsight, was in a worse situation than if they would have just left me with my higher educated teenage parents. So anyways, yeah, I need your help as a group. I need to know from you people that have done your research and have run into your answers, this, that, the other thing. So I do this to get more feedback, to better understand, because through understanding, we I think we find healing, um, and growth, ultimately. Growth and possibly community. So negligence, the word of my day, is what I feel that has gone on with the adoption agencies, because in my case anyways, there was never a follow-up with me. How's this adoption working out for you? There was never a follow-up. The numerous trips to the hospital with near-death situations, fighting for my life and breath, being poisoned with things that were known to be allergens to cause anaphylactic shock in my system. Um, yeah, none. So, anyways, get back to me and let me know, folks. Did an adoption agent ever come see you? Did they follow up with you? Was there check-ins for you? Because for me, no. For most of these people, I mean, getting raped, getting beaten, getting abused, I don't think so. But anyways, I'd like to know your feedback because I'd like to deal in facts and I'd like to deal in reality and I'd like to deal in truth. And if I'm wrong, I want to know that too. Thanks.